Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Thanks everyone for coming. If you don't know me, my name is Ryan Delaney. I'm in the InfoSec practice. My pronouns are he and him. I've been with Trust coming up on about 4.5 years, and I'm in Michigan. So originally, I planned to talk about specifically about how to do authentication on GitHub via SSH, but the talk sprawled a bit as I did research because I learned some more about some more user-friendly methods. So by the time we get to the end, you will have been exposed to a few different options for editing code or just content on GitHub. Who's this presentation for? I think if any of this resonates, then I'm talking to you. You're not an engineer, but you want to be able to make changes on GitHub sometimes, and it's all confusing and overwhelming. Maybe you are an engineer, and so it's more confusing and overwhelming because you think you're supposed to know how to do everything already, but you don't. You're in good company. Or maybe you're an engineer and you just want to keep up to date on what's out there. This is for you. Well, what is this about? Why do we need to talk about this at all? Don't we have passwords for getting onto websites? Yeah, in the old days, just to catch back up, if you wanted to authenticate with a secure website, you'd set up a username and a password. The password's to be kept secret, so the theory goes, the only person who should be able to give the password when asked for it is the authorized user, who is you, right? Right. Well, it's not really that simple, actually. So briefly, here are some of the reasons why not. People pick bad passwords that are easy to guess. So your favorite football team plus the year they won the Super Bowl isn't actually as unique to you as you might think it is. If that sounds silly, there may also be someone listening who recognizes that now they need to go change all their passwords. And they might change into something equally bad because we're bad at passwords. As an app engineer, if you add requirements, your users will implement the requirement in very predictable ways. So for instance, a special character is always an exclamation point at the end of the original bad password. This stuff really just annoys your users and doesn't practically improve the security of your application. People reuse passwords between one site and another. And just like, decades of collective experience across the industry has shown we just can't change human nature on this. We can't nudge, shame, or cajole users into making good passwords because as humans, we're just not good at passwords. So hold on, wait a second. I thought you were going to talk to me about how to use GitHub. So why are we rehashing all the reasons that passwords are bad? Starting a few years ago, GitHub announced plans in a series of blog posts to switch to multi-factor authentication and token-based authentication for Git actions specifically. So what that means for you is that if you want to change things in repositories on GitHub, you have to get used to a slightly different approach to authenticating than you might have been used to previously. Now, the good news is there are several options, and I'm going to walk through a few of them in approximately descending order of user friendliness, especially for folks who aren't already engineers and used to working in a terminal and stuff like that. I was told to include visuals, so I made this graph. As you can see in the figure, the user friendliness will go down as we go along. So once you find something that works for you and the repository that you're working on, feel free to check out from the talk because it's all downhill from there. Okay, so let's get started. I never even realized this until this week, but it turns out that simple changes can just be made directly in the browser. And it's really not too bad once you know where to click. GitHub's been trying to make it easier to edit things for a while now, and engineers like me might not pay attention to all that because we're already happy with our geeky methods, but you can make simple changes right there on the website, and because you're already logged into GitHub, no further authentication is required. This is really cool. So for instance, here we are on the research and design playbook. Hopefully you can all see that. So if I'm just looking at this document here, random markdown document in the repo, there's a little pencil icon you can click on to edit the file. And I'll just make a little change. This is a test. You should not be able to see this. If you can't see this, good, remove it. Git commit changes, then you can write a little commit message here. You can write an extended description and just remember to click the radio button to create a new branch and a pull request. I'm not going to do it because I don't want to send a bunch of emails to the folks watching this repo, but take it from me. If you press the big green button now, you will get a pull request and that's it. Pretty cool. So I think that might actually be plenty good enough for most of the folks outside the engineering practice. It does have some limitations I wanted to call out. So we use pre-commit a lot. You won't get those checks as you're editing. You have to open a pull request and wait for a build to run to find out if your changes pass. That might or might not actually be a problem for you. If you're iterating rapidly, it might get annoying. Let's see, there's a question. Do branch protection rules prevent disable hide commit directly on main option? That's a good question. It's not protected on the repo we just looked at, so it might. Yeah, we should check that out. Yeah, because on most of the what Brandon is referring to is that most of the repositories we work with, we prevent committing or pushing directly to the main branch because we want to encourage people to use pull requests for peer review. So if the main branch is protected, you might not even be able to do that. So it's good. There may be additional guardrails there. But also another limitation of it is that it's really just not a suitable environment for editing code, in my opinion. So if you're making some complex code changes, you might need something more than this. So if you do need something a little beefier than that, you can use the github.dev integration. That gives you a pre-authenticated instance of Visual Studio Code in your browser. And all it takes is changing the URL from github.com to github.dev. Anything can be changed like that. So let's take a look at, for instance, React USWDS is over here. I'm just going to pick a random file. So here's a file in React USWDS. If you just go up here and change github.com to github.dev, wait a few seconds, and here's Visual Studio Code. Right here in my browser, I'm already, same story, I'm already logged into GitHub. So I'm already logged into github.dev as well. I'm not a big Visual Studio Code user myself, so I can't demo everything this can do, but you can create branches, push to branches, create and send pull requests all from inside here. I didn't see if you're able to get the pre-commit checks and all that running, but it wouldn't surprise me if that's possible. So let me know if that is a thing. I think it probably is a thing, but I'm not sure. You get like a terminal or something probably. Okay, it looks like John just tested it and said you can't do it. Okay, great. So yeah, they do have that guardrail there for branch protection rules. Thanks for looking that up. Okay. So yeah. Well, who's still here now? Let me go back to my slide deck. Who's still here? At the beginning, I suggested that if you see something that works for you, then you should feel free to check out from the talk. So if you're still here, awake and paying attention, then who are you? I'm guessing you're probably an engineer, probably want to use your local editor and development environment. If that's you, I feel you on that. Believe me, I like to customize everything, especially things that I use all day, every day. But like me, you probably also already had to solve this problem, and you've probably done it with SSH keys. So since GitHub doesn't allow Git operations using password authentication anyway, a set of SSH keys is the best and frankly only solution that I know about. But I can suggest a more secure way of storing and working with those keys that you might not have known. Enter 1Password 8. So we use 1Password as a secure vault for secrets like passwords, certificates. Maybe you've got your authentication tokens in there, all kinds of stuff like that. And it's great. Now, in 1Password version 8, the password manager we all know and love has become an SSH agent as well, effectively. So it can generate new keys, it can import existing keys, it can securely store them. So no more leaving them on disk in plain text. I mean, you wouldn't leave your passwords in a plain text file on your desktop, right? So why do that with your SSH keys? And it integrates with the actual SSH agent and with Git, so you don't have to change anything else in your tool chain. So let's see how that works. To take advantage, first of all, you need 1Password 8. So at the time of this talk, if you haven't explicitly downloaded it and installed version 8, then you probably have version 7. Most people at Trust have version 7, I think. Anyway, if you need to upgrade, you can get 1Password 8 at 1password.com/product/Mac. Since I've already got it set up, we can take a look at it. Also, the documentation I thought was really very concise and informative. So If you have more questions or I didn't cover something in this talk, take a look at it. It's at developer.onepassword.com/docs/SSH. That's a tongue twister. But since we're all here, let's go ahead and run through what it looks like. So over here, I've got 1Password over here on the left. I'm going to click New Item. You get a lot of options. The one I'm going to pick is SSH key. Next, you can, if you have a file, I think you can just drag it in here. I took this as an opportunity to rotate my keys anyway, so I think that I would encourage generating new keys. If you want to import existing keys, you can do that pretty easily. So I'm going to hit Generate New Key. The default is ED25519 with a helpful little info text explaining. If you want to learn more about why that's the best option, you can click here. But there we go. So I'm going to hit Save. And now we have an SSH key. I can copy the public key and go add that to my GitHub profile on github.com, and then I would be able to authenticate with that SSH key out of 1Password. So if you can do this, you're done. I had to do an extra step just to set up my SSH config, so we can sit back over here and take a look at it. So this is my whole entire SSH config on my work machine now. And when you go through the setup process, a little wizard will pop up. I went through this already, so 1Password didn't encourage me to do this, but if you do this for the first time, it will tell you, hey, you should probably put this in your SSH config so that everything else in the system now that expects to use an SSH-agent or to use SSH as a backend for secure communication will know how to communicate with 1Password. So just demonstrate here. It asks me to scan my fingerprint. And bam, I'm successfully authenticated. So I like this a lot because it's better than typing in a passphrase, because you get to use the fingerprint reader, you get to use your hardware, everything that locks the 1Password vaults, also secures your SSH keys now. And that's pretty cool, I think. So I've been liking it a lot. The end. So what we learned: passwords alone bad, MFA good, human-centered authentication hard. You can edit GitHub stuff directly on github.com. You can edit GitHub stuff indirectly on github.dev, and you can use 1Password to manage your SSH keys securely.